Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to this MBA Analytical session. I'm Dipinti, an incoming MBA candidate at Dartmouth Tuck. And with me today as my guest and our host, my co-host also for this evening is Pawan, who is an admit of the Fisher College of Business, Ohio. And so we're going to ask him a lot of questions and we're going to delve deep into his admit journey, look into all the business schools that he applied, and we'll learn a lot from these experiences. So, Pawan, welcome to this session. How are you? How does it feel that you're finally going to the US now? And yeah, I hope that we have a great session going forward.
Thank you, thank you. I welcome everyone. And how I feel great because it has been 2 years. I applied in 2024. So what happened is because of COVID, the embassies were closed. And Fisher was very particular that if you want to do that course, you have to be in Ohio because they wanted, though it was an online class at that time, but they wanted your presence to be in Ohio. So I had no other choice rather to defer it. After deferring again, what happened is I had an interview at May. Again, the embassies got closed because of COVID this year. So it was a similar situation which I faced the last year. So it became very erratic. And at the end of the day, what happened is the visa slots, it was very tough to get one. Finally, I got one, and this 15th I resigned. So it has not been 15 days since I have left my job, and this 4th I'll be flying off. So yeah, it's great.
That's really nice. And yeah, I can so relate with you in the visa situation because I have been on the same boat and I know how difficult it was to secure appointments this year. So yeah, I would say that that's a different story and we can talk hours about it. Yeah. So for everyone present here, this is how the session's going to progress, and I'll give a brief overview before we start. So we're going to talk about Pawan's pre-MBA profile and his career. So he's been in a government job, and we're going to talk a lot about that, about his profile. What specifically did he work on? Post that, we will talk about his GMAT preparation plan. Now, Pawan scored a 720 in the GMAT, which is a very good score. It's the 94th percentile, and it's a great score. We're going to talk a little bit about his preparation, and he will share strategies and other things with you that really helped while he prepared for the GMAT. Post that, we'll come to his B school selection process. Now, interestingly, Pawan applied to a lot of business schools and from different geographies. So he applied to US business schools, he applied to ISB, and he did apply to schools from Canada as well. And it's very interesting to know that how did he strategize all of these. Then we'll ask him about his admits. And, the most important or the focal point of this session would be, say, for someone to choose between an Indian business school such as ISB and then or a US business school, say, for Fisher College of Business or, the other schools that Pawan had gotten admitted into. So we'll definitely base our session on that. So make sure that you ask a lot of questions in the comment section. We'll touch base on that how do you select between business schools once you got an admit, especially if there are from different geographies. Do we only consider rankings or do we consider a lot of other factors like ROI or say global experience and other such factors? So start asking your questions in the comment section and we'll take them up in the end once we have asked Pawan all the questions from our side. All right, so hope you're ready, Pawan, and hope you're good to go.
Yeah, please shoot your questions.
Okay, great. Let's start from the beginning. So you told me that you were in a government job, and you were, I think specifically your profile was in the sales and supply chain domain, and I think you said that you have had 6 years of work experience. So tell us a little bit about it, about your domain, your work, and when was it that you felt that you needed to go for an MBA, during your job?
Yeah, so I graduated from NIT Allahabad. So what happened is after my graduation, I got a job for Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. So I was sales and marketing, but the majority of work which you do, that was related to supply chain and logistics. So what happened is, so in BPCL, what happens is it's a government company. So it's a PSU, means that government has more than 50% of the stake. So when I joined, it was very good. Still, it's a very good company to work for. But what happens is, because being a government company, there are pros and cons. The cons is your growth. The second con is transfers. You will get transferred after an interval of 3 to 4 years, you will get transferred. So for me, these two factors were something which I thought I can improve upon. So this, after 4 years, I decided let's go for an MBA. And to grow to in managerial skills also. What happens is if you are working for an oil company or a PSU, you cannot switch jobs like it happens in IT sector. So that was again something which I thought I could explore more. So for that, I thought let's go for an MBA. And because my profile, though I have done my engineering, but because the work which I was doing, that was not technical, that was a more of managerial. So I was handling about 52 distributors. They were directly reporting to me. So at that point of time, I started speaking to my people, like my friends, that what are my options. So I spoke to many fellows who are from IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta. They told me because of your work is like I decided on the fourth year that I had to apply. Then they told me with an experience of 5 years, you cannot appear for CAT. Like you can appear technically, but that will not help you because their average work ex, the batch size, the if you see the cohort who do the flagship programs in IIM, that is 2.5 to 3 years of experience. So that was something they said me, you don't come because what will happen is you'll not be able to convert it. Like to convert to a job, it will get difficult. Then the other options in India were ISB and 1 year program of IIM Bangalore and Ahmedabad, which are good programs. After that, what happened when I started appearing for GMAT, I started to do my own research. Then I came to know that colleges of US, colleges of Canada's, their pros and cons. So that is how everything got started up. So this is how why I landed to an MBA. So the basic reason was that it's about growth and it's about it's again it's a discipline, right? When you follow a discipline, you will learn many skills which are unaware of. So I was in a managerial post, but the thing what happened is you start to realize that to see the bigger picture, you need some handholding. So that was the one of the biggest reason I started to pursue the dream to do an MBA.
But often, I have seen that people receive this sort of questions, and tell me whether it happened with you or not. That say that, because in India, we have this sort of mindset that you're in a government job and it's supposed to be really safe and secure, provides with almost everything that a person would look for in a job, a good salary, stability, security, and all of that, right? So did you also, when you opted to go for an MBA and when you discuss the same, say with your colleagues or with your friends or your distant family, so did you also face the question like, you're in a government job and why do you need to go for an MBA?
Yeah, definitely. Because in India, government job is overhyped. So what happens is when you decide to take a step, I don't want a government job and I want to do an MBA. And the thing is that after 6 years, again, you have to start from scratch. So what happened is, but deep down, you know what you want, right? So when I was when I was during my college days and when BPCL used to visit our campus, like for campus placements, at that time, I thought that BPCL is a dream job, right? And still BPCL is a very good paymaster. If you see the companies which are providing job to core companies, not IT companies, in non-core like in core companies, BPCL is still a great paymaster. But the thing what happens is, it's about the growth. It's about not only your growth, but how you are growing with like how the world is growing and how you are growing, not only in professional as well as it's not only professionally, it's always also personally. So in that, what happens is when you join a company, you not only do work for them, their culture also start to imbibe, right? So that was something which was hindering me. I was thinking that personally I'm getting stagnant.
Okay.
So at that moment of time, I thought, okay, fine, I have done like this is what I wanted, but now I think I can do more and I can contribute more. So
Definitely, that makes sense. Yeah.
this is how I used to convince them.
And I think that makes sense also. I mean, it made sense for your career, your growth, and of course, you do receive such questions. I mean, irrespective of the background that you are from, and for
Yeah,
government job people, of course, it's like it's a mandatory question that you would get from everyone, say primarily in India, in and around you. So yeah,
in
great
fact,
way
the
to
same
answer.
question was asked me during my SB interview also.
Okay, okay,
That
okay.
why are you leaving a government job?
Right, and you were able to convince them. So
Yeah,
good point in that because ISB does look for these nitty gritties in your application,
yeah,
and they do tend to ask you on your choices as well. So yeah, great answer I would say, Pawan.
yeah.
Okay, so let's move forward, and let's ask about GMAT. So now I know that it's so I'll talk a little bit about this because it's the month of July, and as you may know, people who are targeting the 2022 so 2021 intake like this for 2022 intake like the next year's intake. The admission cycle begins from 2021, and they are, I think, most of them are going through the GMAT process now. So I would say that the GMAT preparation is definitely a key thing in our application. And you scored a 720. So why don't you talk a little bit about your GMAT prep plan? Like, how did you start preparing about with it, and what were the strategies that you followed? What were some of the weaknesses that you saw that you overcame, and how did you do that?
So what happened with me is I started to prepare, if I remember, during May 2019.
Right.
And luckily, I was able to get in touch with few people who told me about the deadlines. That if you want to apply to round one, this is a deadline. Before that, you have to give a GMAT, right? So immediately, what I did is at that time I was in contact with a senior who was in ISB Mohali campus. So he told me this is the process, right? You have to give GMAT, and in GMAT also for ISB you need a 700 plus to be on the safer side. Then what happened is he immediately told me you give a mock, and without any preparation you give a mock, just know what is the pattern and give a mock. So I appeared for a mock, I screwed up in verbal. Then what happened is immediately I realized because I don't have time. So what I had to do is I had to improve my verbal. Then again I did a bit of research and I joined e-GMAT. In fact, I have a video with Rajat that about my entire e-GMAT process, which is in YouTube. So if anyone wants to see it and learn that how I improved my verbal was 18. From 18, I went to 38. So that entire journey is there in detail. So the audience can go and see to it. Then what happened is when I gave my first mock, official mock, then I took my e-GMAT course. So e-GMAT was very structured. So like I wanted to take verbal of it. So for quant, like I never used to see any videos of quant from e-GMAT. I only used to practice the questions. So through e-GMAT, and because I had a time constraint, that professional hand holding helped me, and slowly my scores started to improve. Then the last attempt of GMAT was on September 9th. That I got a 720, and after that I started to apply.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah,
this
so
is
that's
how.
that was a pretty, good regimen that you followed. I think that's why I said, this is the time frame when most people are thinking about going for the GMAT, and they are like
So
tackling their preparation strategies.
lot of people who prepare
Hmm.
I'll just touch upon this topic because
Hmm.
many people they contact me, right? Because in except of this for other two, like for some other channels also I've done live. So what
Hmm.
happens is people giving GMAT on an earlier date is important is because if you have a GMAT on an earlier date you can apply to round one, right? So when you apply to round one, your admission chances are more. The scholarship which you can get is on a higher side because as soon as the round progresses, the KT of the scholarships gets reduced.
Yeah.
So to put your best foot forward, you need to apply to round one or earlier rounds. Now what happens is for admission fall 2022, that means for the next year, the applications are open. So if you're not following the timeline, you are doing wrong to yourself because you're not allowing yourself to shoot at the maximum target, right? From round one, if you go to the round two, the bullseye is getting reduced and the scholarship chances are getting reduced. So if
Absolutely.
an so to the audience, I just want to tell you that please adhere to the timelines. You should be aware because many people are not aware. They prepare for the GMAT. They think that if I get a 720, 750, I'll get an admit. But in that race, what happens is they take a lot of time. So it's always better to have a timeline than that by this date I have to finish my GMAT. Because again, the entire application process is another Herculean task which you have to follow. So it requires time.
Right, right, absolutely. That's a very valid point, Pawan. About the timeline that you mentioned, it's very important to strategize the timeline because, as you said, the application process itself, it's a huge task. I think it takes a lot of time to complete,
Yeah.
to select your business schools and then decide the story that you're going to, that you're going to describe your profile and everything. You need to say, your resume. You need to do it really, really,
Yeah.
like, you need to do it well. So
Because a lot of fellows ask me the question like how to get a scholarship, how to apply for ISB. The first question I ask them, have you given your GMAT? So that is the basic thing which you have to do, right? Without that, the entire discussion is not meaningless, but it's very vague to comment.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think that's a very, very valid point. So people who are targeting 2022 intake, what Pawan said, and I do completely agree with, and I would also advise you to do the same. Is like, decide on a GMAT date, like take a deadline for yourself, and then tackle the GMAT and try to score your highest within that date, so that you get ample amount of time to apply for business schools later.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, let's move on, Pawan. I think after scoring 720, you, like you mentioned, you were done with your GMAT by, say, September, and
September, yeah.
yeah. So then you decided to apply for business school. So did you apply to everything in round one, or was it like divided?
No, I missed. So ISB I applied on round two because again the thing happens is because again what happened is I applied in round I was done with my GMAT by September. So I had only 15 days, and many deadlines for many colleges were like 7 days, 8 days. So again,
Hmm.
like the application, the essays are very, very important.
Yeah.
But for ISB, it was I think September 15th.
Hmm.
So no, ISB I applied in round two. Fisher I applied
Hmm.
in round one. It was October. Tepper I applied in round two. Schulitz I applied in round two. So say 70% of the colleges in which I applied was round two.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Okay.
30% I was whose date was in mid October, right? Round one date in mid October. To them, I was confident enough to apply in round one because I was not
Hmm.
confident in many colleges whose deadlines were September. Like ISB was September 15. I
Hmm.
remember correctly.
Yeah.
So ISB was not able to apply in round one. I applied in round
Hmm.
two. So
Hmm.
colleges who had their round one in October first week, that all I was able to touch.
Hmm. Okay.
But
Okay.
before I required, like I decided 20-25 days to sort out my application.
Hmm.
So, but the thing is that the colleges in which I applied in round one, I got admit from Sol.
Right, right. Yeah.
That
So,
that is
so,
a
so we will definitely come to that. And I
yeah
think what you did is you did a mix and match. So based on your GMAT timeline, you strategized accordingly, and then which colleges you could apply in round one, you did,
yeah
but the rest you left it to round two.
yeah
Okay, amazing. So let's talk about let's talk a little about the business schools that you applied to. Now when we talked, I got to know that you applied to business schools from US, from India, and in Canada as well.
yeah.
So would you like to tell us, like, how did you come across, or how did you make this particular list? Did you follow any particular strategy? Was there some end goal in your mind that you used to make this list, or were there factors that you considered while making the same?
The thing what happened is I discussed before applying. I discussed my profile. I took a help of someone, right? I took a professional help from someone. I discussed my profile with him that this is the profile, and
Hmm.
this is my score. This is my budget. This is the amount of money I'll be able to
Okay.
spend.
Okay.
Depending on that, he told me that your profile will be suitable for supply chain and operations. Then I decided to apply to colleges which are very good in supply chain and operations.
Hmm.
But in US at that time, what was happening is because of the administration, the visas were getting very tough. Like the to get a job, to get an H-1B, because at that
Hmm.
time Trump was there. So he told me that what we'll do is we'll apply to some US colleges. He gave me a list of at least 50 colleges that you do your research and you apply. Then in Canada, we took a call that we'll apply into, and in India, I only applied to ISB because
Okay.
I thought that I am Bangalore and Calcutta and
Hmm.
I am Ahmedabad. What Calcutta, what used to happen is there
Hmm.
the cohort average works was 9 years, right? So
Hmm. Hmm.
it was a high management. They used to recruit for high management position. And from that day, what I used to do is through LinkedIn, I started to speak to a lot of fellows. So
Hmm.
I have spoken to a lot of fellows that how to apply, what. So I just used to go and search the colleges which I shortlisted that I'll be applying to these colleges, and I started to speak to the alumni.
Hmm. So you did network a lot.
Yeah, I did because
Hmm.
the entire webinar, like why ISB and why not Fisher or Tepper,
Hmm.
Fisher
Hmm.
ISB Tepper, it
Hmm.
was a boomerang.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is something that the audience also has been asking. Like, I've seen already a lot of questions based on that, and we are
Yeah.
also going to definitely touch base on that. So yeah, so accordingly, you applied to about 10 business schools, say?
Yeah,
Okay.
more or
Okay.
10 applied in that somewhat like that's a thumb roulette. You apply to
Hmm.
some safety colleges, some
Hmm.
match colleges, and some
And
like aspirational colleges.
yeah. Okay.
So for aspirational, I choose Tepper and Kenan Flagler. I got from both. There's
Okay.
rest for safety colleges, and in India also ISB was an aspirational college. But
Hmm.
ISB, depending on my profile, I thought because the cohort was also very large, so I
Hmm.
was very positive about it that I'll get into ISB.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So definitely makes sense. So
I'll
so
just
yeah.
I'll just compare why, or
Hmm.
if that I'll just compare that what is the difference between the MBA in three countries, and this is all what
Hmm.
I've learned. So if anyone disagrees with me, it's completely fine. This is what I have
Hmm.
learned by speaking to people. So in US, and again I'm speaking to I'll start with India. In India, what happens is there are two types of MBA where you go to the college and learn. I'm not talking about executive MBAs. So one is the 2 years MBA, one is the 1 year MBA. The 2 years flagship MBAs, if you see, their average cohort, like the work ex of the cohort which are joining is 2.5 to 3 years. So if you are having a work ex of more than 5 years, so going to that cohort will not help you because the profile for which the companies are coming to recruit, that they are not looking for highly experienced professionals. Then when you come to 1 year, you have flagship events in India, that is ISB, IM Bangalore, and IM Calcutta. So these are the main 1 year programs which are highly reputed. Now, when you go to US, if you go to US, there, if you see the average work X of their full-time MBA, US is a 2 years course, right? In US, the full-time MBA is 2 years. So there, it is 4.5 to 5 years, approximately, plus minus zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.7. In Canada, it is about 16 months to 18 months. So the two colleges I applied. Now, in terms of risk, in terms of like in terms of ROI, if you this is, I've just told the average work ex and how I decided to which colleges I'll apply. The second was work ex I saw. The second thing I saw is the second thing which I saw is what is the ROI. So ISB is highly expensive in terms of Indian currency, right? Second is Canada. Canada is a country which is like the most beautiful thing about Canada is the work ex, the efforts you need to put a job. It's very easier. It's in between India and US. If you go to a top-notch college such as Schulich or Rotman. Secondly, Canada, what it happens is their cohort is big. Like if you see the cohort of Rotman and Schulich, both they take a lot of students. So again, it's easier to get. The third thing, and if you compare this on a similar ground to US, getting job in US was like still is you have to network. Like so, campus recruitments do happen, but if you're international, because the companies which sponsor you, they are less. So you have to put a lot of efforts. But the beautiful thing of US is US from MBA, if you see 100 colleges in FT rankings, so 80% are US colleges. So MBA was developed in US. MBA as a discipline was invented in US. So their MBAs are very popular. The second is if you see the international students which go to US. So again, on an average, on a country-wise, you will find a cohort which has a lot of diversity in terms of international students. So for me, I always wanted to do a 2 years course because for me, 1 year MBA, I applied to ISB only because I thought that if I don't get a admit from US or if I don't get a scholarship, because US MBA is very, very expensive. So in terms of expense, you see will be the highest, second will be Canada, third will be India. So this is how I selected my bag of this is how I put the colleges in my basket. And this was the entire groundwork which I did. That what is how much money you will be able to spend, which colleges you will be able to push how much, then where you want to work after. Like so for me, I also wanted to work for a year or two abroad. So for that also, if you see the placement starts of ISB and all, the people who go out are very less, right? So majority of the
Absolutely.
placements are in. So this is all I did. I did my like what you want to do, right? And for me, I am from NIT Allahabad. So the Indian education system, I have 4 years. I have touched the taste of it. It has its pros and cons. So I also wanted to see that how it happens outside, right? What is the education system outside? So that is how I have selected these three colleges. Canada, I selected because it's a very safe option, right? In terms of like the expense also is in between India and US. The work also like the efforts which you require to get a job, that is also in between India and US. So that was a safe option. And so in terms of country, US was highly aspirational, Canada was a safe, and ISB was a match.
So did you also consider scholarships when you chose your B schools, like schools which
So
which give
yeah,
scholarships? Because I think US is like the highest in granting scholarships
yeah.
compared to
So
all geographies.
yeah, Canada also give. I got something from
Hmm.
Schulich also, but it was I
Okay.
think 10,000 or 20,000 it was.
Okay.
But for
Okay.
me, what happened is I wanted to do in supply chain. Then I started
Hmm.
targeting colleges like Fisher. Fisher was in FT rankings only 52. In US news rankings, it varies between 25 to 30. But for
Hmm.
supply chain, it is top 4 in US
Hmm.
as per US. So Fisher was a college, and then again I started to speak to many alumni. Luckily, what happened is my younger brother was in Texas Instruments, so
Hmm.
his manager was from OSU. So he
Hmm.
also praised a lot about the supply chain. So it's a niche course for. So OSU is known for supply chain. Like similarly, Michigan State University is known for supply chain.
Hmm.
So that how these two colleges, like I eyed these two colleges, and they were very generous with scholarships because they both were state universities. They were not private universities. So this is how I decided to apply in both of them. So, and what happened is overall ranking is 25, but what happens 25 to 30, but their
Hmm.
supply chain ranking is like in the top 5 in
Hmm.
entire
Right.
US. So this
Right.
is
So,
how
so tackling with just to give the audience a little bit of perspective. You are talking about the global rankings, like you're comparing the rankings of the schools. For example, say Fisher College of Business
yeah,
compared to ISB on a global scale, like the Financial Times ranking that we all see. Correct?
yeah. Financial US news ranking is there, which will rate
Hmm.
the US schools, and financial
Yeah.
ranking will rate everyone. Yeah. So
Correct.
rankings is one thing. Then secondly, what happens is suppose I'm in India, so I know exactly what is the brand value of ISB. for that also, what I did is I spoke to lot of, I was lucky enough to, like, I had the time to speak to a lot of people and invested a lot of time. So at that time, I wanted to do in operations and supply chain. So at that time, I contacted Mintra, who was the head of supply chain and operation, like in 2020. That what is like how you see the people who come back to India, and how you see the people from
Hmm.
ISB. So for initially, he said ISB is a great brand if you are in India, right? So then he asked me the college's name. Then he said, "I give me 7 days, I'll come back to you," because he was a known like I was speaking to him through a known fellow,
Hmm.
so he was able to spare his time. Then after
Okay.
7 days, he called me up. Then he told me that OSU and MSU are very good for supply chain. I have done my research. So
Hmm.
initially, he was no, you don't leave ISB, because he was recruiting also. Then after like a week or something, he called me up and he told, I have done my research and these two
Hmm.
colleges are very good for supply chain. And at one hand, so that was, and in ISB, one more thing was there which I spoken to like the students in ISB. It's a 1 year MBA. You can take electives and you can specialize, but the thing what happens is you will not do an intern, right? So again,
Hmm.
that is a pro. Second is it's a 800 diversity, like 800 students are there. So
Hmm.
for me, I wanted an intimate cohort so that I can learn from other fellows. So just for an
Hmm.
example, in ISB also the diversity is very good, but now like the groups have been formed to the college
Hmm.
Fisher. So one is an army pilot and one is from army, US Army. One has a chain of restaurants, like the people who are in my group, right? So this kind
Hmm.
of diversity I was really fond of. And you in ISB, the faculty and the faculty is, I will not say 100% like
Hmm.
domestic faculty. It's there are international
Yes.
professors and they are very good. Some come from Wharton also, but the
Hmm.
thing is that majority of the professors are domestic, and 90% of the 98% of the students are domestic, right?
Hmm.
So you will never get to know that this how business is happening on a global perspective.
Yes.
So that
Absolutely.
so for that, I thought it's better to take a chance.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that was the factors. The third thing what happened is Fisher offered me 100% scholarship with a GA, right? So I will be getting $2,400 per month as a GA.
Okay.
Now what happened is that released the entire financial burden. Even if I'm not able to like that the worst case scenario I discussed. So even if I'm not able to get a job from like in US, it never works. I come back to India. Still, I had a 6 years of work experience from Bharat Petroleum, and Bharat
Hmm.
Petroleum is highly regarded in India.
Hmm.
Also, I am from NIT Allahabad. So the other
Hmm.
two brands which I have, I thought I'll be able to capitalize it.
Hmm. Okay.
So these
Okay.
are the rationales which was going. Again, I told you that I was from India, so I know the brand image from ISB. But to
Hmm.
know the brand image of Fisher, like again, many people who are applying, they know only few colleges like Wharton. They don't know even in the top 10 also. You tell them two or three names, people don't know here. So what happened is I was lucky enough to speak to John Bryan, who is the founder of Words and Con. So with him, I had exchanges of emails. So we exchanged a lot
Okay.
of emails. I told him this is a scenario, this is what I want to do, this is the things which are worrying me. Then he straight away told me that he knew about every ISB also everything, because he also does a lot of research on MBA
Yeah.
colleges.
Hmm.
So John told me that what will happen in Fisher is he compared the faculty, how many people are
Hmm.
internationals. He told me that you are not aware how it works in US, right? So this is a lifetime opportunity and you should not leave it.
Hmm.
So in the mail,
Absolutely.
he wrote a similar kind of thing that
Hmm.
it's an easier decision. Then in e-GMAT club also you see lot of people compare that
Hmm.
whether to go to ISB, Fisher,
Hmm.
Broad, or if you're getting
So,
100%
if you
scholarship.
know, if we can quickly summarize for the audience, like what are the factors that you considered for choosing ISB versus US business schools? I would say the first factor that you chose was definitely ROI. You saw that how much you were
Yeah.
spending versus the return you were getting. The
Mhm.
second thing that you chose that I completely agree with is you do not get a global exposure to how businesses work in ISB. You just
Yeah.
get to work, you get to know how things do in India, and I think a little bit of that is changing. But yeah, on a major scale, you would be limited to how businesses work in the country and not on a global
The
scale.
basic thing is that
Hmm.
their education will be international, right? The
Yeah.
things which they teach, that is, I'm not doubting that. Again, ISB
Yeah.
is a very good college, but the
Hmm.
thing is the cohort, right? The cohort, what
Yes.
happens is you interact with the similar people whom you're
Exactly.
interacting with, right?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
until and unless you interact with different kinds of people from
Hmm.
different geographies, you will not understand how they think. Right now, for example,
Right.
if you ask me to suppose make a campaign or ad
Hmm.
for Indian people, I'll focus on brand quality or discounts because I think the way they think, right? But I don't
Hmm.
know how the other part of the world is thinking.
Hmm.
So for
Right.
me, that was
Exactly.
also a
Hmm.
big factor. And this
Yeah,
factor,
so global coverage and diversity, as you mentioned,
yeah,
for the business school, that's also very important in order to say go into a global level, or see
yeah,
yourself, say maybe in a global company, right?
yeah,
Okay, so, and the next factor that you did mention, I think it was that say the specific, the geography that you were going to. So you wanted to work in USA for 1 or 2 years, or for let's say for a couple of years, and then decide what you want to do in your long-term goal. So I think for that also, getting into a US business school made much more sense than taking up an Indian business school.
yeah. And what happens in US also, I spoke
Hmm.
to many people who worked there for 2 years and who came back to India. I was
Hmm.
able to speak to a lot of fellows because now
Hmm.
because of technology, access is there. Only you have to do research.
Hmm.
So I spoke to a fellow from Fisher who worked for Amazon for a couple of years and who came back, right? He also were, and actually in Fisher I spoke to many fellows. They were also in a similar dilemma. They were also in ISB
Hmm.
and then Fisher, and they told me that everyone whom I spoke to, they
Hmm.
told me that I think what they did was the best, right? So because they had their own way of thinking, they
Hmm.
had their own stories, right? Hearing
Yes.
my story, they resonated with my story, and they said that whatever the path in which we are thinking, we are right. Whatever you are wanting, will get here.
Hmm, absolutely. Okay, so now that you have given us, say, a brief, and I would say that it was really helpful, the insights that you shared between taking up a business school in India versus in the US, and how it mattered for you. So I think the main point that you also shared was how it kind of resonated with your profile, with your
Yeah.
story, and what you wanted to do in the future. So now
ISB,
let's,
one more
yes,
point. ISB, the third point was that ISB was a 1 year course, right? So 1 year course,
yeah,
the
you did
progress,
tell that, yes, that
yeah. So
that internship will be missing, of course, someone
internship
who wants to go for
and
an
1 year has
internship.
its own pros and cons.
Hmm.
So 1 year, what will
Yeah.
happen is your cost, operational costs reduce. Like it's
Hmm.
a plus point because 2 years you will be not working only for 1 year.
Hmm.
But the thing is happened in one year, it's you will not be able to learn much,
Right.
or it will be
Right.
very hectic.
Absolutely. 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 Okay. So yes, and I completely agree that it depends on the individual's choices and their short and
Yeah,
long term goals as well. But let's take up the next question, or I would say the next segment. That is, you apart from Fisher, you did get admits into other business schools as well. Say
yeah.
one of the prominent business schools, if I can talk about, is Stepper, right? Which is a really good school. Now tell us one thing, that how did you select? Now, first, I know, just tell us like which all schools other than Fisher did you get admits into, like other than Fisher and ISB? You did get into a lot of other schools as
Yeah,
well. And yeah,
I got into Tepper School
hmm.
of Business.
Okay,
So that was with 40K scholarship, so
okay,
20K per year.
hmm.
Then I got from Michigan State University, Broad College of Business,
Hmm.
that's top one in supply chain.
Hmm.
There I got 100% scholarship. Then I
Okay,
got from UNC Kenan Flagler. There I got an
hmm.
admit without any scholarship.
Okay,
Then I got from Schulitz, that is
hmm.
that is a from school from Canada. That is without any scholarship, but I got an admit.
Okay,
Then I got admit from ISB. I
hmm.
got admit from Purdue with 100% scholarship. So the
Hmm.
schools which I'm naming, if you just see the rankings in their supply chain, so they're all
Hmm.
in top 10, except of the Canadian, like
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
in US. So this was my mindset. I wanted to do in supply chain. Then how I selected my basket was I'll select. One more thing happened is many people don't know why I applied to Kenneth Plagiaris that and Tepper it was STEM MBA. So
Okay,
that gives you a cushion to work more, like
okay,
to have an edge over. So
okay.
that was one more reason how one was again Fisher is a STEM MBA, right? So it will help.
Hmm.
So that was also a point I considered when I selected Fisher over Broad.
Okay. Okay. So,
So
so, so
these
why not Tepper? Because it is ranked higher. Uh, hmm.
From my batch, one girl was there who was with me in UG. I spoke to her. She got a 75% scholarship in Tepper. She
Okay.
told me that Tepper was 24, 25 in FT
Hmm.
ranking, and
Hmm.
Fisher was near 50 at that time when I
Hmm.
applied. So
Hmm.
again, it's a top 50 college in the world. So what happens with Tepper supply chain is 9. Fisher supply in terms of supply chain, if you see Tepper was 9, Fisher was 4th. Now the
Okay.
only point of consideration was with Tepper you will get a brand image, and with OSU has a great brand image because it's a state
Hmm.
university. But
Hmm.
Fisher, if you compare brand wise, Tepper was a greater brand. But what happened
Hmm.
is the expenses. I got after getting a 40K scholarship from Tepper, I spoke to the fellows, including living and everything. Here,
Hmm.
everything was free because my tuition fees was waived and I was also getting a GA, so my living was
Hmm.
also there. With
Hmm.
Tepper, after doing all the calculation, again I had to spend near about 1.2 crores
Hmm.
after getting 40K also. That, and at that time I got an admission in 2020. At that time, the administration was not so friendly with the internationals, right?
Hmm.
So she also
Right.
said a straight no, that it's not, it's worthy of a risk, but the thing is that you have to toil, and if the worst case happens, you will be in a lot of financial trouble. So better to be here without any financial trouble, and you'll be able to explore more.
Okay. And that's why you chose Fisher. Like the number
Yeah,
one reason, of course, was the supply chain, which you said Fisher is really good in. And the
yeah,
second one, of course, because you got like full scholarship along with a grant, right?
yeah. So these two reasons. So what happens is the it becomes very lucrative, right?
Hmm.
So, and again, my family background and all that also, like I knew how much I could spend, so that
Right.
only it's affects only me, right? How much risk I can take at this point of time. So depending on
Right.
all that, it was a holistic decision which I made.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Now to tell us one thing, this is a hypothetical question that I'd like to pose. Say that you hadn't gotten any US business school admit, right? And you got into ISB only in India. So would you still explore ISB as your option to get into your short and long term goals?
Yeah, ISB. What if you see ISB still is whatever said and done. ISB is a great school, right? It's one of the best schools in the world, right? So ISB, leaving ISB was a very big decision which I took, and a risk which I took. But having said that, if I do not have any other options, yes, definitely I would have joined ISB, right? And if any scholarship would have not been there, then again I have to see that I want a global experience, but at which cost I'm going, right? Again, if it's taper at 1.2 crores and ISB, it would have been very difficult for me to decide. Again, I cannot instantly say. I have to speak to myself, and I have to do my research again. So I've never compared taper and ISB, because
Right.
taper and Fisher I compared. For that Fisher, like I decided that I'll go with Fisher. Then Fisher and ISB I compared. So if you ask me to compare taper with ISB, again 1.2, it's a bit high, but at
Yeah.
that time again the entire environment in US was not international friendly, right? Now it's slowly things are changing.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
I don't think,
Absolutely.
if I answer this at any, like at this moment, I won't be able to do justice.
Okay.
I have to
Okay.
do a bit of research on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, you cross the bridge when you come to it. So, of
Yeah,
course, if you were in the situation, you may have had a different rationale of tackling
yeah,
things in that way. Okay,
yeah,
so let's talk about, so let's talk about your post MBA. Like you said that you have talked to a lot of people, you have networked with a lot of people, alumni, current students, and all of those from different
yeah.
business schools, right? So let's talk about the post MBA opportunities that you have seen in Fisher, because I think correct me if I'm wrong, but in ISB as well as in others, say US top business schools like top 10 or Ivy League, so they do have campus recruitments. Like a lot of
Yeah,
companies have campus, come on campus, and they have this
yeah,
sort of collaboration with companies.
yeah,
So how is it with Fisher? Like, do you guys also have campus recruitments?
yeah. We do have.
How does it work for that?
Yeah, so what happens is Fisher also campus recruitments are there. So there are tie-ups which companies definitely visit Fisher, right? So Deloitte was there, Cummins was there, Tesla was there. So Simona Williamson was there. So these company they visit it, right? But what happens is after that, like Amazon, Google, Apple, they have an online process. You have to do online.
Right. Yes.
And then they again come that when you interact with seniors and you get referrals. So it's a completely 360-degree process. Companies recruit, and internationals, like domestic, like how domestic happens within a month or so, all the domestics got intern in Fisher.
Okay.
So with
Okay. But
international, what happens is slowly, because of sponsoring your visa and all, you have to toil.
right. So how do you plan on doing that? Like what is the usual step that a student has to follow for that? Like
So
apart
what
from
hap-
networking.
irrespective of the college you join, what happens in the US I've
Hmm.
seen. I don't know what happens in ISB, but once you are enrolled, like you have paid your fees and it's fixed that you will be joining that college, they assign a career coach to you, right? So for me,
Right.
already a career coach has been assigned like 30 days or 45 days before, and then
Hmm.
they'll start to work on your resume, they'll start to work on your
Hmm.
pitch, they'll start to work on your star stories. So these basic things it has already started. So at
Hmm.
this point of time, at least the material which I require to apply for a job or for an interview, that is almost finalized, right? Then after that, what you have to do is if any company is visiting or if any career fair is happening, they will write a mail to you that this is happening, you please attend. So this is how it starts in US.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that is there with every US business school. Like you get
Yeah,
a career coach, and he or she will help you in polishing the resume.
yeah,
Like if you're applying to consulting, they'll do a different sort of
yeah,
resume polish.
yeah,
For tech jobs, they'll do it differently.
yeah,
They'll also they'll guide you in say refining your profile. Like if you have any gaps in your profile, like if you're very
yeah.
good with math or quant, then they'll advise you to take like quant lessons. So yeah, that is how you go on, and along with campus placement. So yes, what Pawan said is that you will have to like work on your own a bit as well, network with people, and go for the targeted job searches for the companies that you would like to go into, and build a good network. Like Pawan said, that is very very important. But yeah, at the end of it, I think it's really really worth it, because that is what you're going to learn in an MBA
So
for.
my one of my colleague was in Tepper. She
Hmm.
got an off campus. One of my senior was in Macombs. He got an off campus. So
Okay.
it's a mix, right?
Yeah.
It's a mix. You have to.
Hmm.
It's so that was another thing. With ISB, you get a job in a platter, right? And with ISB, one
Hmm.
more thing. That's a very beautiful thing about ISB, which people are not aware of. I am aware of because I've spoken to many people. If you see
Hmm.
the average package of ISB, it will be 25 to 20 to 25. But don't
Hmm.
go without it. The trajectory which you will get after going from ISB, that is very beautiful, right? Because you have a
Hmm.
lot of elements from ISB in top positions.
Hmm.
So don't go on averages, right? Even if you get a lower package in ISB with an average salary, but you're
Hmm.
in 2 years you will be able to cover the loan which you have taken.
Hmm.
So the similar thing with the US, because in US what happens is if you get a job, if you have an MBA profile and you get a job, so minimum $100,000 you will get, right? So that's the standard for MBA students to have. So
Hmm.
in US what happens is the starting salary will be on a very high side.
Hmm.
And if you work for a multinational in US and you come back to India again, that's a cherry on the cake.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. The trajectory will again, it will be really, really good. Like if
Yeah,
you're doing it from the US and from a good business school, and then coming
yeah.
to India. So yeah, as Pawan said, it's all on your profile and what suits your career path, and how you would like to go about in your MBA experience.
Yeah.
1 year versus 2 years. So all of those options you definitely have to weigh in while considering your future decision, when you are, when you have applied to the business schools and when you have received admits.
For
Yeah.
ISB, they use a term as a sweet spot, right? So people who are having a work ex of 4 to 5 and 5.5, they are in the spot in which maximum companies come to recruit. I'm not telling that people with less experience they don't get selected or ISB or they don't get a job from ISB. But again, it's always better to be in the top in the bell curve, right?
Absolutely, yes, it does. And I think besides that, I think it's very important that no matter the years of experience that you have, the quality should be really really good. Like you should
Yeah,
have worked very well. Like even if you have 4 years, 3 years of experience, you should be able to show your trajectory in a good way. Like you need an MBA now. I think that's very very important. Like Pawan was also questioned, right? So you have a government job, why you need an MBA? So the quality of work that you have done, you should be really good at that, and you should be able to justify why you need an MBA now. So
yeah.
in that case, of course, like if you're in the average work ex, it's definitely an advantage. But then even if you are a little lower or a little higher than that, then if your story makes sense, then absolutely you are in for a ride.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I think we had a great discussion, and you have like explained a lot of things in detail when it comes to your perspective of choosing between ISB and US. Absolutely, I would say that perspectives will differ, and people will have different choices of choosing schools and choosing geographies. But I think for you, for your career goal and the choices that you made, definitely made more sense. So at the end, Pawan, like before we take up audience questions, would you like to give, because I know that this is admission session and people are applying to a lot of business schools. So would you like to give some advice to prospective MBA applicants?
I would advise two things. First is don't miss the deadlines. So don't think that having that, okay, not round one, then round two. Second is that having said that, this does not mean that you rush into round one, right?
Right.
So prepare a good application and try to apply it as early as soon as possible. The second thing which I observed is because many of my juniors applied to this round, like fall 2021. So this year many people have applied. So the amount of scholarship which any school is giving, like with Tepper at 720, I got all that depending on my profile. I applied at round two. But on a similar profile from my company, one more fellow applied, he did not get any scholarship. So the scholarship thing also, I feel, depending on the fellows I have spoken to and people who can like speak to me, is getting tough in US because a lot of people are applying. So if you see, many articles are there that this year the applicants who have applied to school, they have rose by say, 20 to 25% on an average in US for MBS. So don't miss the deadlines. And like many, all the colleges say that they see the overall profile, but the thing happens is GMAT play a very strong role on it because GMAT, few things it helps you to shortlist, right? I'll get to know like when an admission committee sees your profile, obviously they'll see everything. But GMAT, if you have a good GMAT, it shows a very good image. Second thing, if you are a general, like if you are a male and you are an engineer and you are from an IT background, that's an overrepresented field, right? So in that field, GMAT becomes more important.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very correct. And I think, Pawan, it's not just for males, because I was a female IT Indian applicant, and I faced the same thing, guys.
Yeah, it's tough.
GMAT
It's tough.
is very important. It's very important if you want to get into like good business schools, and if you want to get
Because
scholarships, as
because
Pawan
what
said.
happened, because many students they message me in LinkedIn that now this year
Hmm.
these schools have waived off the GMAT. So should I apply without GMAT? For them, I'll say no, don't apply. You can apply obviously, but it will be tough.
Yes, absolutely. It is when you come from an overrepresented profile, and people are applying left, right, and center, and you are just one among the pool. So yeah, definitely it makes sense to score high on the GMAT.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take up questions from the audience, and so I saw a question where people did ask you. Okay, so because there are a lot of questions, I'll just take a second to filter that out.
I'll I'll just take a minute. So because
Yes,
because of our time constraint, we'll be taking limited number of questions. So
yes,
people who want to ask me questions, they can shoot me in LinkedIn.
sure.
Whatever.
Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, we'll take up, we'll take up maximum questions that we can, but then for niche questions, that this is your profile and this is your work experience and you're from this company, we really can do profile evaluation in these sessions. If you have general questions, we are more than, you're more than welcome and we'll definitely answer them. But for specific profile-based questions, you do need like one-on-ones, and it wouldn't be possible for us to evaluate your profile like or live, I would say. Right. So there's a question by Akhil, and I saw this by a lot of people, other people also. Pawan, why don't you take this up? So why didn't you consider European Business School? Because you talked about a lot of geographies.
European Business School, since I think 1 year before, what has happened is
Hmm.
the work permit they have extended to 2 years, right? Before that, what happens is it was only 1 year. So again, I spoke to one fellow from Manchester City, I think Manchester, and one from Cranfield. They both told me that it's a 1 year course, so that's a benefit in European schools. Generally, the courses are of 1 year, but what happens is because of the work permit, what used to happen is the getting a job was much tougher than US, right? Then second thing what you can compare is what is your ROI, right? So again, European schools are also very expensive, less expensive than US because it's generally a 1 year to 16-month course. But the thing is that the way they like the average salaries which you get is comparatively lesser than US. So depending on these two factors, I decided that if you want to do a global program, it has to be US or Canada. In
Okay.
European schools, again, like one college is there in Germany, which is very famous. So what happens is that their language also becomes a barrier, right? Because if you do MS from Germany, what happens is you will be in a technical field, but when you do an MBA or a management course, you have to speak to people. So they require a basic understanding of their language. So if you are open to it, you can go it. I'm speaking. Then again, there are very beautiful colleges like in CI, LBS. So obviously you can go there, but I never touch them.
Okay. Makes sense. Right. So let's take up this next question by Ashita. How did you choose between MSU and Fisher?
Good question. MSU and Fisher again. MSU, what it does is they also offered me 100% scholarship. But for
Yeah.
MSU, what happens is they don't give you a GA. Like they don't give you a stipend unless you come to a campus. Then what
Hmm.
happens is you have to go to the campus and speak to professors, or in their website you have to search for a GA to get a stipend. With Fisher, it was like they offered me university fellowship. So what I had to do is for first year I don't have to work also with any professor or with any department. They'll be just paying me. So with MSU and Fisher, the only difference was the stipend amount which I was getting in Fisher, because both are great school in supply chain. With
Hmm.
MSU also, one of my students who was an e-GMAT student, he is a current student of MSU. So we both were on the same boat. We were deciding that where to go. He was getting from Fisher, he get a bit of a less scholarship, so he chose MSU. And when I first spoken to students from MSU and Fisher, both told me that whichever college is giving you higher scholarship. So the major factor is scholarship. If you're choosing these two schools, MSU and Fisher, whoever is giving a higher scholarship, you should go with them.
Okay. Okay. Right. So there's also an interesting question by Dhruv, because you mentioned that you chose business schools that were really good in supply chain. So I think he has a similar question, that how did you find this out? Like, how do you find the rank of a school, with respect to a particular field, say marketing or supply chain?
It's very easy. You can Google it down. Still, what you can do is
Hmm.
I did the same thing. You can go to US News and US News rankings. So what they do is they list all the schools. They do a like the college has to participate, right? And the beautiful thing with US is the data is not fudged, because their ranking system is very transparent, right? So people take part in the ranking, and depending on many profiles they judge and give a rank to a college. So I don't know how like in India I've seen how they rate the engineering colleges.
Hmm.
So compared to the rating which happens in India, US, I felt it is more transparent. So what you can do is you can go to US news rankings, and then there some sections are free, right? So you can see the ranking of all the colleges in the. Then you can see the rankings in marketing, for example, per se. But some are paid features. So I paid some. I think at that time it was $50 or $25. I paid $25, so they will show you everything, which
Hmm.
professors are there. You can compare everything. You can compare, right? So I paid for it. But again, if you just want to see you rank of a particular college in marketing, it's free.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. And I think, yeah. So Dhruv, you can definitely follow this approach for getting the schools that are really good in marketing. And other thing, would also be like once you see the rankings, just talk to people. See the stats, like how many people have been placed in that particular field, and all the schools' website will display a particular pie chart, that how many students or what percentage of the class has been placed into what particular domain or what particular industry. And from that you can generally figure out that whether the school is good in a particular domain or not. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. This is by Sagar, and is it feasible to consider US business schools given the fact that the fees is almost double compared to the Indian schools? Also, what is the right approach for catering to the fees? So go
First thing
ahead.
is that first thing is that I'll compare schools ISB and ISB. I'll compare with US schools. So the fees is not double. Actually, it is triple. The thing is that it's a 2 year course, right? So I'm comparing a
Yeah.
2 years US MBA with a second is that living and all. If you compare, it becomes 4 times, right?
Hmm.
Having said that, if you have a great profile and a GMAT, US is very generous with scholarships,
Hmm.
because I belong from a middle class family, and suppose if you see the fees of Pepper and all, it's very high. But still, if you have a good GMAT score and good profile, you'll get a good great scholarship. So fees, if you compare without scholarship, yes, it's very high. But if you have a great profile, it becomes comparable, right?
Yes.
And so what would be the right approach for catering to fees? Again, it depends on you, right?
Hmm.
If you belong, if you are privileged, you can pay yourself. All
Hmm.
else student loans. So student
Yeah.
loans are very easy. So once I got my GMAT in Bangalore, after my GMAT, people asked me scores, and automatically banks started to contact me.
Hmm.
Second thing, if you go to ISB, if you accept a letter, they have an SBI tie-up, so loans is
Hmm.
very easy.
Hmm.
And depending on students' loan, this all will be asking your visa also. So it's not
Yes.
there is no right approach. That depends on you, right? If you are
Hmm.
able to, if you can afford, you can always pump in the money. Else you have to take a loan.
Hmm. Right. So I'm also going to give my take on this, and I think what Pawan said. Yes, it's not going to be double. It's triple. If you simply compare on the currency, like if you straightforward just convert USD to INR, without considering PPP, it will be directly like thrice. So you will spend almost say 1.3 or 1.4 crores of INR right there. Now, what happens is like, as Pawan said, first of all is scholarship. Of course, if you have great GMAT score, if you have a great profile, then the chances of getting even say a percentage of scholarship, like say 30% scholarship, becomes really, really high, because all the scholarships in US are mostly merit-based scholarship, right? This is something that you should remember. Your profile, your GMAT score matters a lot. And even if you get a 35% of scholarship, that makes a huge amount of difference. Right? It's a 50K, 60K scholarship of USD. It's a huge amount of scholarship. The second part, like, the rest 70%, the one thing that I have seen also people do, like, of course, you can take loans from India, like you can take from, I think SBI gives loans, Canara Bank gives good amount of loans. And besides that, in US, you also have the option of Prodigy Finance. They also provide financing options. And the second thing, if you are getting into, business, I'm not sure of like all the other business schools have tie-ups or not, but I do know that Tuck, Darden, Fuqua, Kellogg, all of these have tie-ups with Discover. So Discover gives it's a student loan. It's a custom graduate package loan. You do not need any co-signer for that. You do not need to keep anything in mortgage for that. It's just based on your school admit, and they're ready to finance your loan. It's a very, very good interest rate. It's a very lucrative interest rate, and you can borrow the rest of the amount, like the entire cost of attendance on that. And believe me that, as Pawan said, the ROI is really, really good. So once you get a job, you'll easily pay off the loan. So the amount looks really huge because you look at it by converting it directly to INR, which shouldn't be the case, right? Because you are going to spend in USD, and if you work there, you'll earn in USD as well. So try to compare in those aspects. You're not going to like earn in INR, right? Unless and until you're really planning on coming back to India. So try to compare on ROI, as Pawan had done for all his business schools. I think that would be a really, really good approach to go forward. Right. Okay, so let's take up this question by Gaurav. And what do you think about this, Pawan? Like, can a high GMAT compensate for not having worked at branded companies?
I don't know what is branded companies or not. Each company it's like what work you are doing, right? So it depends on that. Suppose we know about Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, but the people who have interviewed, except ISB, was knowing about it, right? So there is nothing as branded company or unbranded company. A company is a company. What matters is what work you have done, right?
Right.
Secondly, a high GMAT score obviously will compensate if you have a weak profile in terms of work ex. Suppose you are having a work ex of 2 years and I have a work ex of 5 years. So my profile will be stronger to your profile if I compare work ex to work ex, right? So obviously, if you have a high GMAT compared to me, then at least you are over and above me in some aspect. So it's not like that you work for a branded, not branded. It's an overall profile. Having said
Yes.
that, again, high your as she has said, it's a merit-based scholarship, right? So merit cannot be qualitative; it is quantitative, right? So things which I can quantify only, I can say that she is better than me or he is better than me. So in that GMAT, CGPA, WorkX, and other factors. So these factors which are quantitative, like WorkX, then your GMAT, then in your TOEFL or anything. So it plays a big role when it comes to giving scholarship.
Okay. And okay, so I think we are already on time. Let's take up a last question. When did you get to know about your scholarship? Like,
So I'll just
so tell
explain
me one
you.
thing.
I'll
Yes.
just explain you the process in all the schools. You don't have to submit any additional material for getting a scholarship. So the scholarship goes with your application. Suppose you are applying for a college, the normal process also they'll consider you for a scholarship. And as soon as you get an admit, you will get a notification that how much scholarship you got. At least for the colleges I applied, whether it be Tepper, whether it be UNC, Kenan Flagler, Fisher, MSU, Purdue, anything. So it will follow with your admission. Maybe same day or maximum one day after you will get to know how much you are
Right.
offering. After that also you can negotiate that I got so and so from B college, so I want to join your college if you can match. So it's a negotiation happens. So
Did
it's
you
an instant
negotiate?
process. Sorry.
Did you negotiate?
No, I negotiated with Broad, but because I wanted to go with my friend.
Okay.
I negotiated with Tepper. Tepper has
Okay.
offered me 40K. Then because it was around two, I knew that the chances are bleak, but I have given a shot. Tepper never increased. It offered me 40 and they continued at 40. With
Okay.
Schulitz, I negotiated. They have given me 10, I think. Then they increased it to 20.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. So yeah, absolutely. Yes, as he said, the scholarship you get is along with your admission letter. It either along, or just a little bit. You don't need to do anything extra for that. Like you don't need to submit any extra essays and all of that. These are all merit-based scholarships, as we all said, and then you can negotiate. Like as
Yeah.
Pawan rightly said, negotiation skills work along. Like they go a long way in when you are applying to US business schools, and they definitely consider negotiations. A lot of times they do. All right, so I think we have reached an end of the session, and it was a great session, Pawan. You did share a lot of insights, and I think it was really helpful for everyone who attended the session. So at the end, yeah, I would like to just say that I think we have these sessions a lot of the time. Like guys, you can tune in to the e-GMAT channel in YouTube. We do have these like every 1 or 2 weeks, and there's a great deal to learn from everyone's journey. So from Pawan, you got a good deal of insight into how he chose between business schools. A lot of factors may not resonate with you, but you know that a lot of factors do, and also like what factors to compare once you have really received admits from different business schools. And apart from that, of course, GMAT journeys and business school selections. So thank you for joining us today here, Pawan. And I would say, guys,
Thank
that the
you.
next session that we have, it's a CR and a geometry webinar. And I think these webinars, you can join them, and they provide a lot of insights into solving those kind of problems like CR and geometry problems. And I think we'll add the link in the comment section so you can just register there and attend the webinar on time. So, yeah, thank you once again, guys, for tuning in. And thanks, Pawan, for your time.
Thank you. Bye
Have
bye.
a great day, all.
You
Bye.
too. Bye bye.